What is up, guys? It is your favorite host, Christopher Renne from Pints at the Round Table, The Chris Renne Show, and Chris R Talks on YouTube. Thanks for listening and thanks for engaging with me online. It's much appreciated, and I love all of your feedback. Make sure you follow me and the page online, on Instagram at Chris Renne MB and Twitter at Chris Renne MB. And then follow M-Basement Prod on Twitter and Instagram at M-Basement Prod, and like us on Facebook at Mom's Basement Productions. Thank you and enjoy the show. What is up, everybody? It is Game 6 game day of the NBA Finals. This is a special edition of the Chris Renne Show, the Chris Renne Show NBA Finals. No show last week, kind of got confused. Didn't like the way the show came out with the timing, so I didn't post it. That's unfortunate for you all, because you guys got to miss all my Warrior rants. But I may post it in this post-final montage of all my takes behind the mic. All in all, I'm excited for this quick little NBA Finals Game 6 preview, and possibly Game 7 preview. But we're going to get right into it, and just a reminder, this episode runs on Dunkin' because I've been tired all day, so I needed a coffee. So Game 5, a lot of stories, a lot of things happened, and a lot of this series has been based on the court as much as it has been off the court. So the game was close. It was a 1-point game, 106-105. Kevin Durant came back from his calf strain, and if you can't see me, which you can't because this is a podcast, I did the air quotes. Now, I'm not accusing anyone of wrongdoing at this moment. I might save that for a little bit down the road, maybe a segment away. But Kevin Durant played the first quarter, was electric, hit 3 threes. Scored 11 points, had 3 rebounds, and a huge block shot right at the start of the game. So instantaneously, you could see the difference he was making. And I think with that being said, it's a little gut-wrenching that a guy who a lot of people have given so much shade to, myself included, puts it all on the line for his teammates and people boo. You know, as much as I think what DeMarcus Cousins said was dramatic, I kind of agree with it that a lot of fans truly don't care about the athletes as people. Kevin Durant was getting a lot of hate. A lot of people were saying his injuries was fake. And now, since everybody feels so bad about calling him out for it and saying, hey, bro, you need to play. You're not a man. You need to play. Now everyone's overcorrecting and feeling sorry and trying to find someone to blame. If you look at Bob Myers after the game, he was completely distraught. The only time you've been that distraught is when you know you've messed up, and I think Bob Myers in the moment realized that they shouldn't have forced him to play, and it wasn't worth Kevin Durant's livelihood to do it. Steve Kerr was also heartbroken, but at the end of the day, as a GM and as a coach, the business is winning. Kevin Durant wants to be out there for their guys. I saw RG3 talking today about it. I don't know if it was in a video or anything, but I saw the quote, and he said, if you're given the option to play, that's the only option you're taking. You want to be out there with the guys, you want to be fighting with them, and all that, yada, yada, yada. I am a guy who, when I played sports, injuries were not something that were going to keep me away from playing. I played my whole sophomore year with some hamstring issues and a torn labrum. So it was tough, but I fought through it, not only my teammates, but to prove to myself that I was tough. Was it worth it in the end? Yeah, no, it was fun. I don't think it was for KD, though, because he left millions of dollars on the line in that game, and they probably won't end up coming back and winning this title. In that game, Kevin Durant was all the difference, and the Warriors played well without him, but it still came down to the final shot, which isn't a good sign for the Warriors. The Warriors were extremely efficient in a lot of places, including from deep. I think I have a stat written down on my sheet that Clay was 7 for 13, and their effective field goal percentage was 56%. Both those are pretty absurd numbers, and they definitely outpaced the Raptors, who could not hit water if they were in an ocean. And with all that being said, the Raptors were up 6 with 2 minutes to go. They ended up blowing the game, and Clay hit this huge shot to get him close. And then Steph hit a dagger. An interesting takeaway from the game is Siakam's missed 9 straight wide open threes and has not been that efficient since his insane Game 1 outbreak. Draymond's been the worst three-point shooter of the playoffs, but he went 2 for 4 in the game. So that kind of shows the type of game it was for the Raptors. And I know for a fact that motivation when your teammate goes down, it rises you up to an even greater level and a greater extent. And the Warriors ended up rising to the occasion. I don't understand the last play of the game the Raptors had. Kawhi dribbled it up, instantly got doubled, passed it around Kyle Lowry, got a pretty decent look in the corner. But Draymond Green made one of the best defensive plays in the playoffs with closing out and getting his fingers on it. The memes that came with it were hysterical. I loved every minute of those. So with all that being said, let's get moved on forward. So let's talk about the Kevin Durant injury. The Kevin Durant injury is horrendous for quite a few reasons. Number one, when you strain your calf, it's not a very thick muscle. It's not a muscle that's used the same as some of the bigger ones like your quadricep or your hamstring and your legs. The calf is an explosive muscle that isn't really ever fully loosened up. When you bend your leg, you loosen your hamstring, and when you straighten your leg, you tighten your quad. It's you know how legs work. This isn't me. I'm not a doctor. Don't come at me for not thinking on the spot how these things work. That's not me, okay? You know how legs work. Whenever you run and take a step, you're pushing off with your foot. It hurts your calf. It uses your calf muscle, and it puts your calf muscle in an extremely isolated state. The thing about the human body is everything starts from the ground and goes up, and what major muscles closest to the ground? The calf. So it is literally in control of pushing everything else forward. He had a calf strain, which means that thing was torn. Partial or whatever. A calf strain is a tear. A lot of people don't realize that. A strain, a lot of people misconstrue that word for sprain and think they're similar. No. If you strain your hamstring, it's a lot different than if you pull your hamstring. If you tear your calf, it's usually, when they call it a full calf tear, it is a major strain, a grade 3 or grade 4 strain. I am not sure on the actual grade levels, but I know it goes up to 3, so it's at least a grade 3. And what is your calf near and connected to helping stabilize it? Your Achilles tendon. So number one, a lot of people are questioning if it was ever a calf strain to begin with, and I'm kind of in that boat. The one thing that bothered me the most about Kevin Durant's injury is both what Bob Myers said and what Steve Kerr said. And it's the line where they said, the team doctors and team trainers said, well, he can't hurt it any worse. You could hurt anything in your body a little worse than it's already hurt unless it's completely torn or completely broken. And even then, you could still hurt it worse. Unless he lost his leg, there was 100% reason to believe he could hurt it worse, which he did. So that's why that line sort of irks me a little, and that's like my biggest deal with this issue. They put it all on the line for him, and I think time and time again he wasn't ready, but with Kevin Durant's reputation of being soft and letting people in his ear and them saying that he isn't a tough guy and that he's doing this on purpose and they don't know why he's not out there, and hearing those rumors from the teammates questioning if he's really for them or against them when he had a serious injury. And it doesn't help that Klay was playing through an injury. It doesn't help that Andre Iguodala is playing through an injury. It doesn't help that Kevin Looney's playing through broken ribs. But a calf strain's a lot different than the injuries those other guys had. A calf strain is a torn calf. And I know many people, if they tore their calf, they'd be out of commission for much longer than an entire month. So let's not hate on Kevin Durant for getting hurt. We need to get to the bottom of this. And I think if the team doctors did have a part in why he was playing and why he was able to go early and how it jumped from him not being able to practice to him not being able to do 3-on-3s in practice to him being able to play in a full court basketball game. One tweet I saw brought up was, how are you blaming the trainers when he was dancing like this before the game? Well, when you tell a dude you can play, you're telling the dude he can dance, plain and simple. Kevin Durant does a pregame dance every single game. You told him he can play. Is he not going to dance? So that one completely checks out. I'm actually, it's hard because I've been such a Kevin Durant hater to sound genuine when I say this, but I do feel pretty awful about the injury. It's a sport. It's supposed to be a fun game. I'm glad his surgery was successful. I really can't wait for him to get back. I know I'm one of the countless people who said he ruined the NBA. I've called him a bitch quite a few times, but in this moment, I stand in solidarity with him. And I will still challenge him every single time I get the opportunity to. But on this one, I'm on his side. I really don't think he should have played. I really feel bad for all the people pressuring him to play. All in all, it's a bad situation. There's probably going to be some more stuff coming out about it. Anyways, Achilles injuries are no joke. Hopefully speedy recovery. Because as much as I don't root for him when he's playing, I don't want to not root for him when he's recovering. Because he does truly make the NBA a better league and a better place to watch the sport when he's healthy. He's one of the all-time greats. So whether he comes back for Golden State or ends up playing in New York or somewhere else, I really hope he gets back to where he was before the injury happened, especially with how it all went down. So whether you love or hate Kevin Durant, this isn't the time to boo him. This isn't that type of time like the Raptors fans did in the game. It's just an unfortunate injury that happened to a player in the NBA Finals who wanted to give his all for his team. So that's going to move me forward into talking about his teammates, the Warriors, predominantly Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. So if you had to guess who the NBA Finals MVP would be, who would it be right now? Steph Curry? Nope. Not so fast, Junior. You want to look at some stats I have? Oh, I'm pulling them up. It's not loading. Give me a second. Let's see. Let us see. It's hard to find it. I've got a lot of notes. I've been taking notes lately. So, if you take away free throws in this series, Klay Thompson has 24 points per game on 65.8% efficient field goal. Steph has a 22.8 points per game on 51.4% efficient field goal. So, that is from Barry McCockiner or Sports Talk Barry. It's not a joke. It's a sports page I follow, and he is pretty good at giving stats. If the Warriors do end up winning this, a lot of the buzz is going to be Steph Curry scored 47 points in a game, lotta. They lost that game, so that game doesn't matter. And in the games that they won, Klay Thompson was the better player who came up bigger in the bigger moments. Steph Curry hit the shot at the end to ice it, but Klay put him in the position to get there. And I don't think that can go unnoticed. I'm not trying to put these two against each other. They've both played pretty spectacular. I think the difference is Klay missed a game. So there's that up for question, but Klay's been way better as a basketball player. His defensive intensity, his ability to guard everybody on the floor when they need him to, especially when they go small ball, being able to guard Kawhi, being able to guard Kyle Lowry, being able to guard Danny Green, Norman Powell, whoever he's tasked with guarding, he shuts down for that certain amount of time. So you combine the defensive effort with the offensive efficiency and the points per game totals and the rebounds per game totals. He's pretty much better than Steph Curry has been this entire postseason. And yes, I know you Steph Curry stans and you guys who just want to blow him so hard that he draws more attention than Klay Thompson. That's great. I don't care. You look at the stats. Klay's been better. Klay's been more important. Klay's been more valuable to the team. When he's played well and he's played great, they've won. Klay's defense has changed games. Steph's defense has not. Steph had a 47-point game. Whoop-de-doo, they lost. One thing I have in my notes, Steph has lit it up and fallen off. He's been very consistent this series for him with absurd highs like the 47-point game for starters and then palpable lows where you're just like, he's there, he's doing it, he's good, he's fine. He'll hit a three every once in a while. Pad the stats. He's a stat padder. Steph stat patter. Steph is a front runner, and in games they were winning, he ends up playing better in the end of the games. But when they're down and it's a challenge, he needs help to get the team back in it. That's never been his strength. I like Steph. I like Klay. I don't care much for the Warriors as a whole. I used to use them to make people go insane when I played them in 2K by just jacking up threes. But eventually everyone sort of caught up to that strategy and it's no fun anymore. Draymond needs to be better shooting the ball. I think that's an absolute fact. I think everyone in the world knows that. Also, switching sides to Toronto, I think their role players have been pretty good. I think they've done everything they need to do to put the Raptors into a position. And the one thing I noticed last game was some uncharacteristic shots and moves by Kawhi Leonard. I think you can tell he wanted to feel like a star. He wanted to ice the game. He took a shot from just inside the logo in transition, which was something I never thought I'd see him do. I think he needs to come back down. Play that controlled, super easy, super smooth going, Kawhi Leonard style basketball game. What's he been saying? What's been coming out? What did his former coach say? Board man gets paid. Doing the right thing, making the right play. That's what he's got to do. He's got to go back to those Inland Empire roots. The IE, the hot, the desert, the Merino Valleys, the Riversides, the Redlands, East Valleys, the Redlands, it's all there. It's all there. It's cool. It's hot. It's desert. It sucks. But the people who live there are gritty as hell because of it, and that's Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard needs to go back to that work hard mindset. It's not about flash with him. It's about getting to his spots, getting the bucket, rebounding the ball, and playing defense. And if he does that, they're going to win tonight. Absolutely. The role players, they're going to find it from someone. Kyle Lowry plays way better on the road. It's the weirdest statistical anomaly in the NBA over the last 3 or 4 years. Someone else, whether it be Marc Gasol, who will abuse DeMarcus Cousins, Pascal Siakam finally hitting a three, Fred VanVleet continuing his meteoric rise because of his son. The list goes on and the list goes down. Danny Green can go back to that, 2014 NBA Finals form he had in that second win the Raptors had, put him up 2-1. You never know. If he gets hot and hits 5 or 6 threes, they're going to win the game. That's what this takes in the NBA Finals. They're not going to shoot that bad from three again. I can just guarantee you that. But Kawhi needs to be himself. He needs to be that guy who's been scoring 30, getting 12 boards, and 4 or 5 assists. If he can do that, they're going to win. It needs to be the alpha, but he needs to not force the shots to close out the series. He needs to be efficient, he needs to make the right play, and he needs to be the goddamn board man. And the board man gets paid. Before I go into Game 6, I just want to highlight one of my favorite tweets I've ever sent out. With about 3 minutes left in the game, I said, I love Canada. And then the game ended, and I said, you know what? Canada still fucking sucks. It's the truth. Canada, unless you win this game, you're still going to suck. And honestly, once I'm done celebrating the Warriors dynasty falling, when you do win, I will definitely still think Canada is overrated as a country. I'm tired of Drake being so goddamn happy. It's all right, though. We need him. The funniest tweet was when Drake was walking through the tunnel like he just played 40 minutes and gave his all for the team. That was hilarious. I'll retweet it again. So Game 6 of the NBA Finals is on this show brought to you by Mom's Basement Productions. Follow Mom's Basement Productions at mbasementprod on Twitter and Instagram. And don't forget to follow your gracious host at Chris Renne MB on Twitter and Instagram. And like us on Facebook at Mom's Basement Prod, period. Before Game 6 of the NBA Finals, I want you guys, if you listened to this show before, to go tweet under the discussion tweet I will be posting on the Mom's Basement Productions page and post your predicted score and your predicted series the rest of the way. I think Kawhi is going to get the last laugh, and I think winning 3 straight games against anyone is hard, and it's even harder to do in the finals with all that pressure when you're missing your best player. I think they close it out tonight in Oracle and end this Warriors dynasty where it started. There's my prediction. Let's get into Game 6 and the story surrounding it. So the last game in Oracle, leave it to the Warriors to stir up the drama to an all-time high. It's a life or death for the Golden State Warriors. This is a dynasty that's represented a whole area, the Bay Area. And it may come to a close. Not the way it started or the way it was coming to an end, but a little different than people imagined the final games in Oracle coming down. People thought that Game 4 in Oracle, you know, the one that the Raptors won to go up 3-1, was going to be the final game in Oracle. And it wasn't. So then they think, well, Game 6, we're going to close out this series in 6 at the latest. Well, guess what? They're fighting for their life. And if that's not the most Warriors thing I've ever seen, you go back to the We Believe Warriors. You go back even further to the Rick Barry. And even earlier to that with Nate Thurman. They've always had this sort of us against the world mentality. We're the Bay Area. We're different. We're not like the rest of the country. We're hardworking blue collar, but we're also classy and white collar. You've got such a differentiation when you cross that Golden Gate Bridge into San Francisco. It's a wild transition. Then you go a little south into Palo Alto and Silicon Valley. It's just different than Oakland, but it was a representation of everything that made the Bay Area special. It wasn't like the difference between the Oakland Raiders and the San Francisco 49ers. It wasn't like the difference between the Oakland Athletics and the San Francisco Giants. They were all one with the Warriors, and that is what makes this Warriors team so special to the Bay. To me, the town is representative of San Francisco, but the Warriors, to me, have always been more Oakland. And with the new arena opening up on the Bay Area side of San Francisco, I think it's going to lose that same identity. And as it slowly progressed through this dynasty that's been so much better than everybody the last 2 years, and they've won 73-9 games, and they won a title with the revolutionization of basketball with the three-point shot. I think when you look at it, at the end of the day, the Warriors were the perfect mix of analytics, great coaching, tempo, and the right group of talent when it happened. Whether you love or hate them, you have to respect the greatness that they've represented for the Bay Area. And that's one side of this NBA Finals. And that's not the end of it. To me, once they moved to San Francisco, they're losing that Oakland identity. It's gone. You see it with the fans leaving early now. You see it. At the beginning of this dynasty, the fans were hardy, blue collar, the other side of the Bay, the Oakland people, the one people who cared so much about this team. And it became the most popular ticket in town. And then you slowly saw it start merging. And then you see these investors start putting money in. And now it's the coolest place for Silicon Valley people to be. And it's just this super rich person area, They're leaving games early. They don't support the team the same way. And you can see. And once it's in San Francisco, it's going to price out all the lower class individuals compared to those Silicon Valley super billionaires, super millionaires who can afford any ticket they want at any given time taking those seats. And that's going to be the saddest thing about when this comes to an end. Is when I was young and watching those Baron Davis, those Matt Barnes, those Jason Richardson, those We Believe Warriors upset that number 1 seed Dallas Mavericks. It was one of those interesting things that truly made me understand and love how crazy of a sport the basketball can be. And that's going to be over. The Warriors are never going to be the same. They were never going to be the same when they hired Bob Myers as their GM. They were never going to be the same when they hired Steve Kerr as their coach. And they were never going to be the same once they brought KD in. They changed the NBA. They changed the way it's played. They changed the way people look at analytics. They changed the way players view stars and talent and where to find it. It's not about being the best player. It's about finding the right players to put together and letting them be themselves. That's what they did with Steph. That's what they did with Clay. That's what they did with Draymond. And they brought in some very savvy veteran pieces to solidify the rest of the roster. And that takes us to the other side. The Toronto Raptors have 4 players who have lost their fathers. This is the pinnacle of the sport. This is everything they've worked towards. Whether you're Fred VanVleet, who was an underdog his whole life, never had any major college basketball offers, goes to Wichita State, changes the cultures. Part of that changing culture of a school, putting them on the map, putting them on prominence. Their coach is now one of the higher paid coaches in college basketball. Why is that? Because of the players that built it. You look at Kawhi Leonard, a Inland Empire guy. He went to Martin Luther King High School. Not the biggest high school, not the best high school at really much. An interesting, sometimes it's just, a typical public high school. Sometimes they're really good, sometimes they're not. And that's where he went to school. Kawhi Leonard was never a highly touted recruit. He was never the first guy chosen. He's always been grinding to get there. And yes, he was a little bit dramatic with his injury. But if you don't trust the doctors and you don't feel comfortable coming back, they shouldn't be trying to force you and leaking information about it. Next, you got Kyle Lowry, who's been ridiculed throughout the entire league for so long for not being able to show up in the playoffs. I know I ridiculed him when he said he had to decompress after getting smoked by LeBron. That was a little soft and embarrassing to me. But this is his chance to write all those haters off. This is it. This is his chance to prove himself. And the Raptors, this whole playoffs, no one ever really believed it was going to be them who got there. Throughout the season, it was the Celtics or 76ers, and then the Bucks were dominating everyone. So everyone thought, the Bucks are probably going to be the best. But you know who was there secretly, just chillaxing as the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference? The Toronto Raptors. You know who's been consistently this good, this long? And if the Raptors decided to play Kawhi Leonard more, they probably would have been the 1 seed. And we're seeing how great that team really was throughout the year. And you look at the Raptors and you look at their roster and you just look at the depth they have. Pascal Siakam kept improving. They trade for Marc Gasol, who's never been in this moment, but he's such a big-time veteran. Serge Ibaka, the last time he tasted this was when he was there with Kevin Durant. He said it himself. Kevin Durant's like a brother to him. Then you look at Danny Green, played on the Spurs. He's got that championship DNA. He was part of the trade for Kawhi Leonard, DeMar DeRozan. He's been just as important to this team as Kawhi Leonard. They obviously wouldn't have got there, but when you look at this roster top to bottom and you look at the star that is Kawhi Leonard, they wouldn't be in this place if it wasn't for Kyle Lowry, if it wasn't for Pascal Siakam, if it wasn't for Marc Gasol, if it wasn't for Fred VanVleet and Danny Green and Serge Ibaka. OG Anunoby, Norman Powell, they haven't been as great this series, but it's not about that. The bench goes 8 deep in the playoffs, and you know tonight is the night where they just need to put it all on the line and just believe in themselves. It'll be a great game. It's going to be awesome, and I am so excited for it. And there's so much that goes into it, and I hope I painted a picture for you on why this game is so important and why this can change the whole landscape of basketball. If the Warriors win, it solidifies their place in history as the arguably one of the greatest stretches of basketball ever. 4 out of 5 years. You do it different ways each time. You dominate the whole regular season, you'll lose, and you come back and you sign the one best player in the world, and no one respects those 2 rings. But then, you lose that best player, and you have a chance to win 2 straight to close it out. It's just something, it's something you live for. It's what makes sports great. It's why I'm excited to watch this NBA Finals tonight. Hopefully tomorrow when I do either the full show or post it, I'll have my reaction in it. But this is the NBA Finals Game 6 show. This is your host, Christopher Renne, signing off. Hopefully you guys enjoy the game.